They're like, sir.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you to the entire YOSI Governing Council and our socio-cultural team for supporting this YOSI Financial Literacy webinar. This is session 2. Welcome to you all. The coordinators for the session is going to be Dr. Nilesh Kumar and me. And we are very lucky to have Dr. Manoj Kumar Agrawal, a senior ophthalmologist as a mentor. He's a financial wizard, and I have a personal experience with his advice. For last 6 years, his advice has tremendously helped me personally and innumerable ophthalmologists across the country. So today's webinar is focused for guiding how to set up a financially sustainable clinic. Because when we are setting up a clinic early on in our practice, we have a lot of questions on, first of all, which machines to buy, how to go about the OT setup, how to design the hospital, and what's the return on investment. Nobody taught us that. So these are the key topics which we are going to discuss, along with the spatial book summary, one of the books which has become epic, The Richest Man in Babylon, that is going to be discussed. So the first and the foremost, I would like to request Dr. Pooja Bhandivedekar to present her take on how to set up an anterior segment practice. I have been knowing Pooja for more than 2 decades. She has started from scratch and slowly, gradually put up 2 beautiful centers right in the heart of Mumbai city. Over to you, Dr. Pooja.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you for your kind words. In between, I would like things to be a little interactive. So if you have any inputs, at this point in time, at any point in time, just let me know. I'll just share my screen. You'll need to help me with that.
Dr. Pooja, you can share your screen now.
Yeah, 1 second.
Anybody who wants to pitch in or put up a question to the speakers or panelists, please do so in the chat box.
1 second.
Hello.
Dr. Pooja, do you want us to play the PowerPoint?
Yeah, that would be great. I don't know why this somehow the system is
Okay, so just email it to me. Meanwhile, we will go to the next stop.
Sure.
Yeah.
Rohit sir?
Yeah. So the next presenter is Dr. Prakhar Goyal. He is a person who would get into details of anything which he gets passionate about. And he's passionate about vitreoretina. He has taken care to get into intricacies of each and every VR instrument which is required in practice. So, Prakhar, over to you. How to set up a financially sustainable VR practice.
Thank you, Dr. Rohit, and thank you, Nilesh, and thank you for providing me this opportunity to present this topic, which is very near and dear to my heart. And I have spent good amount of time in. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah. So I've spent good amount of time in setting up my VR practice from scratch, and have been under a good experience. And I would want to learn from your experience also, that things which can be made better. Hello.
Yes, sir. Please put it on the full screen mode and we can go ahead. So slideshow mode.
So
Yeah,
it's visible
perfect.
now.
Yeah, please.
So yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll be talking about Vitro setup made budget friendly. So yeah, basically Vitro setup made budget friendly. This line itself is an oxymoron. You are talking about a Vitro setup, and that also budget friendly. So unlike our friends who are NTS segment surgeons, they have to invest little less, but then the practice booms and they can make money in no time. And the patient satisfaction is also up to a higher level. In contrast, we retina people, we have to invest a lot, counsel our patients a lot. And then in the end of the day, most of the times we end up telling that, okay, you've got a 624, 625. You are lucky to have that vision, otherwise other people would not get that vision. So we are dealing in that kind of situations, because they intricacies and diversification of our retinal diseases and all the problems. So I'll try and tell you easier for us, cheaper for us, and how can we earn money out of those things. So this is my personal experience, and uh, it is not motivated by any industry. A disclaimer is that I'm a banya at heart, so bargaining and negotiation skills, which is a very important one when you are purchasing machines. It may differ from others. And yeah, I had a little bit financial backup, a little liberty to buy things at my own taste. So yeah, I was an Amir Pap ka Garib Aulad. So private practice, everyone thinks this is like this. You get into a private practice, earn a lot of money, and then it is it. But no, oh my dear friends, it is not like that. Private practice is not about it's the earning starts in very late phases of life. And initially you have to struggle with a lot of things, which includes your clinical management, surgical management, your hospital management, and most importantly, your financial management. So to set up a good private practice or to make a setup, you have to have most important things, and happy and satisfied patient, which will go and tell about you to others. That is called as mouth to mouth marketing or mouth to mouth publicity, and which will bring you more and more patients. Obviously, private practice, you have to earn money. Then you have to save also a lot of money, because money saved is money earned. And then avoid unnecessary expenditures. A happy and satisfied patients you will get from your skills, which are clinical, surgical, managerial skills. And the most importantly is soft skills, which are very important in today's practice. When you talk to the patient, how to talk to patient, how to take patient into your confidence. There's just a slide of LVPI. I had put that, all this I have learned, all these skills I have learned from LVPI, and it is helping me a lot in my private practice. The next is, see, if you want a happy and satisfied patient, you should have a setup and machinery to your own needs, and do whatever it makes you, feel more comfortable, whatever you're operating on, whatever machines you're using. So a budget friendly VR setup uh, can be made by investing less. When you invest less and take out more output from those machines and do multitasking from those machines. I'll come to these points. What does it mean basically? So basic rules whenever you are setting up a private practice or a VR setup is, you should first have an input versus output idea. So now here, input versus output idea basically means that you should know the place where you are going to sit. You should know what are the people you are going to treat. How is the paying capacity of the people? How are the people's expectation? And according to that, you should be investing your money. Whenever you're buying a machine, always take demo of those machines. Whatever machines you are going to buy, even if an OCT, FA, any vitrectomy machine or a microscope, You first ask for a demo, use that machine for 10-15 days. Once you feel that yes, you're comfortable and that machine suits you, then only you should go ahead and buy that machine. So it should be every machine you buy, it should not be like that you're buying just because it is cheap. You should be in your comfort zone because you have to deliver best to your patient. Know about your financial backups. Only then you plan your strategy. It's not like that at once you have to buy everything. Suppose you don't have good financial backup and you don't have any idea about ROI, which will be discussed later, I believe, then still you end up buying everything at once. I did not do like that. I actually started with buying OCT and lasers first. Then I went on to buying a microscope, which was VR compatible, and then a vitrectomy machine. So it was truly which I invested. This is very important to talk to as many as possible people. Means whenever you're planning a machine, it's not like that you should buy, you should, you thought about buying a machine and then in next 10 days you bought the machine. You should talk to as many people as possible and take your own sweet time in buying those machines. And in the end, you should know your machine completely. Sometimes there are backup failure. There are some failures which are very minimal, which can be, you know, uh, which can be corrected by a simple thing only. But if you call a person from the company, they will charge you a lot of money. So you should know your machine completely so that you don't have to call people every time whenever there is a problem. Now, for minimum requirements, if we talk about setting up a VR practices, an indirect ophthalmoscope, an OCT, a fundus camera, a green laser delivery system, a microscope, a vitrectomy machine, a cryo machine, and FFA. FFA these days, I would say, in your starting practice is an optional thing, and later when you grow, you can go ahead and buy an FFA. An indirect ophthalmoscope, there are many options to choose from. The price is, anyways, we know Hine, which is the basic, which costs around 1,60,000, 65,000 rupees, and our own famous Swami indirect, which costs wireless ones 36 to 40,000. So you can choose according to that. Now, talking about OCT, the few things which are very important when you're
Dr. Prakhar?
I think we have lost him.
He's back, I think. Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah. Dr. Prakhar, your screen is visible.
Prakhar, your voice is not clear. I think Prakhar is traveling.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I am traveling, but I have stopped at a dhaba now. So yeah, I'm good to go. My car is at a dhaba, getting good network.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, regarding OCT, I was talking that few of the important things which are very important when you're buying an OCT is to choose. These days, time domain obviously for your domain are not used. SD-OCT, if there is an extended depth imaging, then it's a very good thing. The acquisition should be faster and simple so that you don't have to go every time on the OCT machine to acquire. Your optometrist can also acquire. There should be both manual and automatic modes because this is very important because some of the machines like I know of Topcon, which is boasting themselves of being fully automatic, but then their manual mode is there is a lot of problem in that manual mode. So when you have a patient who's uncooperative or a patient with dense cataracts, you have a lot of difficulty. A machine with manual mode is much better. So these days, OCTs, if you talk about the OCTs which are budget friendly, I think Hewitt's OCT is one of the best to deliver everything. It has an integrated fundus photo also. The integrated fundus photo is important because if you buy a fundus camera per se different, then it will cost you a lot of money. And apart from that, a fundus photo integrated OCT gives you a chance that you can charge patient for especially for fundus photo per se. Apart from that, if you have patients who are from uh, different government schemes, they have a requirement that they need a fundus photo for processing of bills and everything. So an integrated fundus OCT with integrated fundus photo is a way to go. And your printout should be beautiful. They should, display a lot of information which you may not understand, your patients may not understand, but then it should be beautiful. Then you should ask for a printer and table along with it, and you be very clear about it that there should be no extra charge for that. And these days, most of the OCTs have coming with ASOCT and glaucoma OCT integrated. So these should be the things you should keep in mind when you're buying an OCT. Next, we are talking about green laser delivery system. Now, the green laser delivery system, they are coming with a delivery systems which are, compact, 3-in-1. 3-in-1 means which you can use for your OT also, as well as for slit lamp delivery system, and as well as for carrying on for doing ROP lasers. So the ones which are very famous these days are the APA ones. The best are in case the Iridex. APA lasers are also very famous, and Eon lasers, which are Indian made, are also very comfortable for people, and they are being sold at a very comfortable price. So you, along with that, you should always ask for a portable carry suitcase, because that will make your life easy. And laser filters, for microscope, probes for endo laser delivery, because all these things, if you go and buy separately after you have bought a laser delivery system, they'll be very expensive. But if you ask for them when you're buying a complete system, then these things will be given you as an accessory, and you can actually negotiate on these things. And also obviously focal and PRP lenses for your slit lamp delivery systems. Microscope, yeah, for our VR setup, minimum requirements are a tiltable eyepiece, integrated XY focus and zoom. Viewing system, when I talk to people, viewing system, you should buy a viewing system which you are most comfortable with. Obviously, in our VR practice, we have always done most of the surgeries on our Zeiss Resite, but that becomes very expensive in two terms, because they can fit only on Zeiss microscopes, and apart from that, Resite itself is very expensive. So these days there are other viewing systems which are very cheap in compared to Zeiss. Next is Biome, which is little lesser than the Zeiss ones. Then comes the Reticare or Appa. They have also their viewing system. So you should take demo and see if you're comfortable with them. Then you should go and buy those. People who have been trained on contact lenses are very comfortable on operating with contact lenses also. Those becomes very cheap. They just cost 50,000-60,000 rupees, and for them it's a very profitable thing. Recording system is a, if you are very interested in presenting in conferences and all, or sharing your surgeries, recording system these days also don't cost much. You can invest somewhere from 1.5-2 lakhs to 4-5 lakh rupees, and you can get a very good recording system. When you're buying a microscope, always ask for additional knobs. Recently I lost a knob, and they asked me a lot of money for that knob. And one regarding microscope, one thing I want to tell you that this is once in a lifetime investment. The microscope optics and all, they do not wear out so easily. So if you have a good backup, financial backup, then you should go ahead and invest in once in a lifetime good microscope. Otherwise, these days, what I have gathered information from people, the best microscope in very budget friendly is Leica M220, which comes with all these attractions. Now, next is vitrectomy machine. Obviously, you should have a dual light source, an IOP control system. Now, when you talk about consumables, there is a cafeteria of consumables available from different companies, and you can try a lot of them are very good, and the prices are very different. One thing I wanted to tell you that when you're buying instruments for your VR, the instruments by Epsilon, they are really expensive, not very expensive, but then they are expensive, but they are once in a lifetime investment. I have tried using Epsilon instruments, and even if after 2 years, 3 years, there is some problem, they'll repair it for free, or they'll change it for free. So that's a good point of investment if you go and buy Epsilon instruments. And inbuilt laser delivery system is actually a luxury. If you can afford that, then there's nothing better than that. So vitrectomy machines these days, two of the most common vitrectomy machines which are used are in budget mode is Reticare, and in when you have good amount of money, then obviously the best is Constellation. Regarding Constellation, one of the things which I didn't know earlier when I was starting my practice, because I had seen in LVPI that these cassettes can actually be ETO'd, and people are using ETO'd cassettes of Constellation for 4 to 5 OTs continuously. So this we talked about how we can buy machines and earn good. Now talking about money saving, one of the most important thing is to negotiate. Whenever you're setting up your VR setup or any setup for that matter, the most important thing these days is to negotiate. Means I can tell you these negotiations are much at the lower level than you can negotiate with any shop wala on in Palika Bazaar in Delhi, or for that matter any daily market in any city. These negotiations go way deeper, way lower level than that. You will ask, you will they will tell you 20 lakhs, you tell them 10 lakhs, and they will give it to you for 10 lakhs. So that is the level that negotiation can go to. Next is you should always think of using cheaper but effective consumables or alternatives. And a lot of uh, machines are there which have these, initially you use original ones, but then when you come down into your practice, you start to use these cheaper but effective consumables or alternatives. Bulk deal or WhatsApp groups. Now, this is a very important thing when nowadays you are going to buy machines, because I bought my OCT when a quoted price was around 18.5, 19 lakh rupees. It costed me 16.85 in a bulk deal. We bought 5 or 6 people bought together. So this is a very important thing. These days in WhatsApp, you can just put up a message that I'm interested in buying this. Anyone else interested in buying this? And in a day or two, you can actually form a group, and in this group you can actually negotiate with companies, and you get much better deals when you do these bulk deals in WhatsApp groups. And yes, once you have achieved a good deal, then you should help your friends by providing these authentic information, and not like that, no, I didn't buy, I bought for 16, but actually when you bought for 15. So that's not a good thing. You should help your friends by providing authentic information. So my golden rule is negotiate, negotiate, and negotiate. Now, negotiation can happen in a lot of things. So first and foremost, you should negotiate on cost of machine. Suppose a 20 lakh machine you have negotiated and come down to a cost of 12 lakhs. Now, then second comes the negotiation on AMC. How much of the annual maintenance you will get for how many years? Initially, whatever you can negotiate, negotiate, because once you have negotiated, once the machine is with you, then you don't, the ball is in their court. Now you will not, they will be charging you for everything, for CMC, like comprehensive maintenance. If you can get a comprehensive maintenance at least for 3 years whenever you're buying a machine, that's the best thing. Then consumables, if you can buy consumables along, like suppose if you're buying an retectomy machine, you can ask for cassettes along with it, 10, 20, whatever. You can negotiate. Suppose you're buying a laser, then endo laser probes, or like this. Then PDC or payment terms. PDC means post-dated checks. Post-dated checks are the checks basically if you buy a machine for suppose 20 lakhs, now you give a down payment of 7 lakh rupees. And then you negotiate that these 13 lakh rupees you will be giving in a post-dated checks. These post-dated checks do not incur any interest. The best part is that you can give them slowly, and then you can, you know, uh, ask to them then on what payment terms, for 1 year, for 2 year. Mostly a lot of companies can even give you PDC for 5 years also if the cost of the machine is high. And then everything should be on paper, because once the machine is with you, then if you have not written anything, people, what will happen, you have negotiated with a person, that person might leave the company after 6 months. You are not left with anything. Now that person has promised you something, but then the next person who comes in the line, he will not accept that. So everything should be on paper so that you can tell the company that this has been the deal which was there. So always remember, in the industry, people are your friends, but they are friends with benefits, and they're only going to help you if you are going to, help them. So always treat them nicely, and you should always have a parallel talk with two companies. Suppose you're buying a microscope of Leica and you're also interested in buying a microscope of Zeiss. You should have a parallel talk and just tell them, each and every person, this one is giving me for this amount, this one is giving me for this amount. You just keep breaking the amount by just having parallel talks with two companies. Last is that you should avoid unnecessary expenditure. Unnecessary expenditure most often comes when there is an electricity fault. And these machines are very sensitive, most of the machines, and they can have a breakup whenever there is a problem with electricity. And people will not give you any reimbursement or any, free services if there is an electricity backup failure. So you should invest in good individual stabilizers, have a good earthing at your home or hospital, have servo stabilizers or gensets in that case. Always know your machine, show that you can be a sensible operator, and where for small wear and tears you don't have to call people every time. So yes, my take home message is everything, that obviously patient first, you should know your finances, invest wisely, negotiate to the depths as much as you can, talk to people, and take your own sweet time in buying a machine. And breakups and failures are a part and parcel. So don't get frustrated even if something is not going on your way. Thank you. Yeah. Any questions if there are?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Prakhar. Usually in our format, we take the discussion at the end, panel discussion, because individual talks tend to go long because the topic is such. So I hope you are traveling, so we will not lose you.
No, I'm here only.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you so much. So we will go to the next speaker, Dr. Pooja. I have her PPT ready, so I'll share my screen.
You can start playing the presentation, Dr. Nilesh.
Yeah.
So I think the previous presentation was pretty much comprehensive, and I think he covered a lot of important topics. So right now what we'll be covering would be just setting up a basic OPD. I'm not going into the into covering OT setups or a VR setup or a specific glaucoma setup or a cornea setup. So when you decide to basically branch out on your own, what are the basic instruments? How do you choose the location? How do you choose the space? How do you do the space planning? Not in terms of interior, but in terms of allocation of space to which area should go where. So we'll be basically doing that, and how to do it in a minimum budget, because when you start out the first 2 years, all of us are in loss, or it takes some time to break even on your investment, whether it's the rental or whether it's the equipments. Can you go to the next slide, Dr. Nikhil? Thank you. So I'll be basically discussing why do you want to start out on your own, where, how do you choose a location, and how do you branch out into into a solo practice / a group practice once you transition from a job or from your fellowship. So the first few years of it. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. So as I said before, your anterior segment setup is like your basically a general setup, a general ophthalmology setup. You may have trained in some particular stream of fellowship, and a lot of us freelance for in such fields. But when it comes to setting up your own setup, it is usually the general OPD, or let's say the cataract and the Khujli-Pani OPD, which forms a bulk of your practice. So how do you do market survey? How do you do physical as well as digital marketing, which is cost effective, suits your pocket in the first 3 years, first 5 years of practice, when the money is tight to come? How do you go for something that is cost effective and reaches your target audience? Instruments and equipments, I'll be just covering the basic cost, and how a lot of Indian companies coming into the market have made interest-free EMIs a possibility, and you should really look at that. And at the end of it, how do you do an expense estimation on your part, so that, as how Rohit was saying, that return on investment comes a little later, but initially, how do you procure the money? How much do you budget out? The taxation part of it, because taxation, depreciation are certain terminologies that a lot of people who start with are unfamiliar with. The next slide, please. Am I audible? Yeah. Am I
Yeah,
audible?
please. Yeah, please.
All right. So, as far as I'll just start with the equipments as a must-buy equipments and good-to-buy equipments. So, the must-buy equipment, it's basically a part of the budgeting. How much is your total amount that you'll require if you even plan to start a basic OPD? I have written down the values here. If you kind of go down, then a basic OPD with a basic A scan, an application tonometer, not even an NCT, should cost you around 11 lakhs. All right. Now, what happens here is a lot of these equipments, for example, chair unit, you can, if you're starting out, money is a little tight to come, then look out for some certain things like a refurbished model to be bought. So a lot of us, probably when you start out, you want things to be new, brand new, sparkly things, but a year down the line, everything is going to lose its sparkle a little bit. So as long as you check the unit very well, then a refurbished unit is something that all of us can consider when we start out. Upgradation at any point is a possibility. All right. But certain equipments, like let's say an ARK, which is like, you can't do without your refraction, you can't do without your great keratometry, you need a great A scan. So all these things should be really checked with your colleagues, like certain companies like Topcon or Nidec give us good quality ARKs, good quality A scans come from Quantal and all. I mean, so many companies have their own, so many people have their own preferences, but talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, which things have been giving you consistent results. Discuss it with your colleagues who are, few years into their practice, still use their ARK by themselves, and, don't have a lot of optometrists or technical staff handling them. So you can discuss it with them. Motorized table and, Snellen charts. So a lot of people close down their secondary practices and go on to sell their equipments. A lot of these forums, we have a lot of forums which are there for carefully used equipment. So you can actually do a video call with them, you can negotiate with them and come to a price, and so we can have it for much lesser. Again, certain companies here, like I told you, have interest-free EMIs. So when I bought my OPD equipment, I made an initial down payment, but rest of them were something like a PDC, but post-dated checks, but it was again an interest-free option. Can we go to the next slide, please? The conference bulk deals has already been discussed previously. One place where I really like to go for very wacky things, out of the box things, and very simple things like 90D. If I want to buy a second set of 90D or something, then Amazon has wonderful deals there. It means, for I have put up an example. If I want to buy a 90D, the work may give you an amazing quality at a exorbitant cost. You have fairly decent quality lenses that are available for Amazon for a little lesser. So when you're planning a second OPD, a basic trial OPD, you want to cut down on the expenses, do look everywhere. Next slide, please. Another thing is that, when you kind of pull up money, you say that, okay, I have now a backup of this much money. You want to start out on your own. You don't have anybody who is funding you. Then you look at the total cost that you're going to incur, but a lot of people don't look at the operational or the day-to-day costs. So the day-to-day cost, when we start out, you can start out with a single receptionist or a single optometrist, doubling up as a receptionist, but your overall consumables, stationaries, you want to do marketing activities, so you need brochures, and you would like to do a marketing activity to reach out to your target population. So this would be digital marketing. Some amount of digital marketing, like creating your Google profile, comes for free. Starting an Instagram account comes for free. But you would like to set up some camps, you would like to distribute flyers, you would like to go out and meet local groups, local people, to tell them that, this is where I have started and where you can come down. You would want to go and meet your colleagues around. a lot of these online digital marketing, you would want to do SEOs. So the both grassroots and digital marketing definitely come at a certain cost, and you can titrate the cost as per your comfort and your necessities. The third thing is, whenever you start your practice, I would definitely say that go for an EMR. So EMR is something that helps you to do your paperwork well. You want, after 5 years, you want to go back to any patient data, which, you know, a lot of us struggle to find, or you have no idea what you have told the patient. Sometimes you forget about it. So these small things are very important. So EMR also, there are cloud-based EMRs and there are server-based EMRs. So you can initially go for a cloud-based one, because per year basis, it turns out to be a little cheaper. And once you are kind of set in the practice, you can definitely look at upgradations. Next slide, please. Now, choosing the OPD space. I mean, when the financial planning comes in, how do you choose where do you want to start a practice, and your interior space planning? So the location has to be very, very convenient for people to travel in, travel from far away. So near a bus depot or a railway station, or some place which has good visibility and good connectivity. Can you go to the next slide, please? The next comes is the space planning. So a lot of people may be from a non-metropolitan area, but a metropolis like Mumbai, where the space is extremely expensive, a good 300 to 400 square feet space should be enough to start an OPD. So right now we're just talking about the OPD and not a OPD-OT combination. Neeraj, I think Dr. Asrani would be covering Asrani would be covering this topic a little later, the OT space. So I have just divided the area as to, you know, the basic requirement. A washroom is a must, approximate size of OPD cabin, so you can go through it. Apart from, you know, your equipments, you will also need to do a little bit of interiors, your furniture, your appliances, like your printers, etc., your laptops. So all in all, if you kind of if you count the cost, it would be around that 11 first, and another 9 lakhs for the OPD space subsequently. So you're looking at a starting budget of around 20-25 to jump into the pool, and of course to almost at least a year's worth of the OPEX, the operational costs that are expected. So you should have that reserved cash for you to generate revenue. Before you can generate revenue, you need to have a little standby money. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, thank you. The previous one. Yeah, thank you. The previous one. Yeah. So again, before you decide to start your practice, if you want to do a local search about how many practices are there in your area, doesn't matter eventually. Trust me, doesn't matter eventually. I have 3 ophthalmologists next door, and all of us are doing fairly fine. But you can use simple Google Maps surveys to chalk out the location. Can you go to the next one? The art of negotiations has already been covered. Understanding taxation is something that is, I think all of us are in the process of learning, but proprietorship and partnership with your family member or a private limited company, which, you know, initially would definitely not look at the taxation slab has changed recently for private limited to 26%. So understanding this taxation is very important. Understanding depreciation. So when you buy equipments, you are not going to get all of them covered under your expense quota, but around 6 to 15% is of the equipment amount is what is covered on an annual basis with a subsequent depreciation or depreciation of that value over the next 5 to 6 years. Again, taking loans is one option which is open, but that is an individual choice. You will have to individually study the loan market, the interest rate that is there, and taking loans from your parents. I mean, on paper, taking loans from your parents or your friends is also some option that we can discuss later on. Next slide, please. When we start out on the OPD, so when you start getting revenues, I think the initial 4 to 6 months, everybody will find it a little difficult to break even on your monthly expenditure, the operational expenses every month. So when you look at the profitability of your business or your practice, and you want to jump up, you want to scale up, first you sit down and you see whether you break even on your monthly expenditure, and have you broken even on your initial capital investment. So the 20-25 lakhs, whatever you start with, have you made enough to kind of overcome that expense, as well as are you able to pay your monthly expenditure, which eventually in 5 or 6 months, most of us break even on that. The initial capital investment, if you have bought a place of your own, then try to even include that. And we'll discuss a little later whether renting out a space or buying a space is a better option as far as finance is concerned. Next slide, please. OPD will need very basic licensure. So most of the licenses also come at a cost, which can be an overt or a covert cost. So for your OPD, other than an MPCB licensure, a Form B or a Gumasta certificate, if you want it to be, if you have an optical store in your premises, then we can look at that licensure. The cost of getting these licenses should not exceed 30 to 40,000. When you start out, you want your staff to be polished, oriented. Some staff training programs can help you out with that. The third point is indemnity. So indemnity is something that everybody should have at the start of their practice. If you're doing LASIK procedures and all, I mean, the initial amount to start with should be around 80 lakhs to 1 crore if you go through all the medical legal settlements which are there. So budget out for that indemnity as well. You get indemnity for staff purpose also, for your clinic also, where the staff has some omissions, and any omission on the part of the staff leads to any kind of issues later on. So look at indemnity, talk to your local AMC policies, etc. Next slide, please. I would like to conclude with that. I think we can go on to the next topic. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Pooja, for a wonderful talk. We will have the discussion at the end of all the talks. Neeraj has come up with an interesting talk, because Neeraj is a very versatile personality. He has designed his own hospital. So he has saved the cost of an architect. So, we can learn how to design an aesthetic hospital, come up with a good setup, and also to plan the OT design in a financially sustainable manner. And also Neeraj is also going to speak about the OPEX in more details in terms of inflow and outflow. Neeraj, over to you.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think it is a very vast topic, but I'm going to try to cover it in around 10 to 12 minutes. If there's something remaining, I can probably take another presentation next time. So, sir has already told my topic. Am I audible to everybody? Audible, right? Am I audible?
Yeah, Neeraj,
okay.
Please go.
So let me start. So before starting my practice, which was around a year and a half back, I actually wanted to understand a little bit about ophthalmic interiors. So I read these 3 books. It's available online also. There's a beautiful book by Arvind. And then there, of course, Dr. Samina Zamindar. She's very, very good at her work, and you can just call her. There's a group on WhatsApp, and any doubts you can ask her. Not only this, but there are a lot of articles available online. There's this very good article on OT and sterilization by the TNOA journal. So you can just find a lot of articles online. Now, considerations is what it is important before planning your interiors and before planning your even basic setup of your hospital. So these 4 things are the most important. local building bylaws, NABH guidelines, NBC codes, which is a national building codes, and fire norms. Fire norms is creating a lot of buzz these days. A lot of clinics are getting notice these days that your fire norms are not on point. So this is very important. Now, madam already spoke about few of the licenses. Now, I have around 35 licenses that can be taken by a fully fledged eye hospital, but we don't need all of these. So let's just talk about the important ones. So let's talk about the Nursing Home Act. Like, say, for example, Star Health authorization. If you want to go for a insurance, you will need a nursing home license. And the list of things required for a nursing home is your application form, your photocopy lease documents of your property, nursing staff. Then you need a audit of last 2 years or declaration on a stamp paper. So these are the particular things that you need to submit. Similarly, if you want to have a canteen in your facility, you need to have a F&B license. So there are a lot of licenses, but then there are agents these days who take over all your work, and then you, like madam said, not more than 30,000-40,000 rupees. Even if you want to do it yourself, you can do it yourself. I have done a little bit of, say, biomedical waste on my own. I have done a little bit of pollution control by going to their offices on my own. So you can waive off the agents. Now, that's not today's topic. So today's topic is about interiors. So now this is something which is important. Now, wish list. So wish list, when we talk about before starting your center, it is not the wish list of the doctor which is important. It is the wish list of the patient and the patient's relative, which is the most important. Trust me, the patient's relative is the one that creates a lot of fuss when the patient is in the OT. So what are the, now this is again there that wishes are always bigger and plot sizes are always smaller. So what should, now let's talk about the doctor's wish list, say for example. So before starting a center, or before even buying a property, or before even thinking of starting your eye, you should think of these points. How many beds do you want? How many consultation rooms do you need? How many reception counters, TPA counters, billing counters? Do you want an optical? Do you want to have that headache of having an optical? Although a lot of people also outsource an optical in pharmacy. So again, space planning, like madam already said, which department needs how much area. Although some norms you have to do it. So for example, the pharmacy FDA says that you need to have a minimum of 150 square feet, without which you cannot run your practice. In the 90s, what people would do is first they would come up with, they would buy a building or buy a plot or buy a property and then create your own interiors. But what happens these days is that when you buy a property and then start creating your interiors, there is some beam which is obstructing your reception area. There is a pillar which will come in between of your OT area. So these things, what I believe is first you do a conceptual planning and then you do a structural planning, which is important in this case. So conceptual planning, what I believe is when you go and see a property to buy or say rent out, please try and imagine what you want to make out of that place. How do you want to lay out your furniture? How do you want to lay out your equipments? And then further go ahead. Again, plot size, depending on what is your property size, square feet, or plots in the north, we have bigger areas. You can decide if you want one floor, if you want more than one floor. If you're creating an eye hospital, you need to make sure that parking is there. Your building bylaws and again, fire norms are taken care of. A lot of people think of Vastu. Anything that goes wrong in a hospital, later you blame Vastu. Vastu sahi nahi hai. So please, people who believe in Vastu, you can probably consider doing everything according to Vastu. Plan your interiors as per your OPD workflow. Now, there are two workflows that are there. Okay, this is called as a spaghetti diagram and this is called as a clean workflow. So if this is your current workflow, please make it like this. So if you're the doctor, if your patient is coming in, if this is your OPD, this is your diagnostic, this is a spaghetti diagram which should be avoided. Make it clean. Registration, preliminary checkup, refraction, dilatation, consulting 1, consulting 2, billing and discharge. If you have a clean workflow, your interiors, you can plan it accordingly. You can also reduce the metrics. Now, say for example, at present, if anybody has a clinic and the distance walked by a patient in a spaghetti workflow is 20 meters. If you make it something like this, you can reduce it from 20 meters to 5 meters. That means the patient is walking less. That means there's a reduction of around 75% in this case. Also, the number of handoffs. A lot of hospitals I see, there is a reception, there is a staff, then the receptionist goes to the optometrist, then the optometrist takes the patient to the diagnostic room. Try and reduce the number of handoffs. This will not only give you a space optimization, but also reduce the patient time. Normally, if the patient takes 2 hours, if your space is well planned, the patient may not take 2 hours, he may take less than that, depending on the dilatation time also, of course. So this is my workflow that I follow: registration, diagnostic, optometry, and consultation. This is exactly what I wanted. And again, before starting your clinic, this is important. When you are actually looking at the place, MEP drawings, that is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. So I basically had somebody make me a blueprint, which I'll describe ahead. But I actually took a pen and different colored pens, and I thought that, okay, my plumbing area should be here, my light should be over here, I should have an electrical point over here. This is where I want lights. This is where I have the OT. This is where my UPS is going to be there. So you have to do it yourself. Of course, you can take help from contractors, but try to reduce your efforts by hiring other people and reduce your losses, I would say. Again, now this is very important. Now, critical area, semi-critical, and non-critical. Say critical area is your waiting area and your OPD. That is the area where you have the most traffic, high traffic. Your air conditions and lighting should be more in such areas. Semi-critical area is, say, for example, the optical counter, where there are patients for a long time, say 15 minutes, but still there is a less traffic over there. And non-critical areas like your pharmacy, where the patient just goes for 2-3 minutes, buys the drop and goes away. So these areas, you have to plan your AC and lighting in such a way that, you know, there is you have enough room for everything. Again, if you are planning a hospital, you should have an emergency room or a casualty on the ground floor, and diagnostics and pharmacies nearby, so that the patient, everything is done on the ground floor. Now, this is one good slide that I found, and this is called as daily business mapping. So ophthalmology is, I think we are blessed to be in ophthalmology because it is the only field that gives us not only OPD, it gives us IPD, gives us pharmacy and optical. So we have 4 sources of revenue. These 4 verticals give us revenue. No other branch will give you so much revenue. But talking about revenue, it is also that much increase in your work. So this is how, again, I planned my interiors. This is a basic blueprint. So first I had drawn a blueprint with a pen and a paper. I couldn't find that, but I actually hired a friend of mine to replicate it on a CAD file and give it to me like this. So this was my blueprint, and it's a small area. It's a 1500 square feet carpet, but I thought of making it in a way that my work becomes less. So as the patient enters from here, this is my reception. I have a diagnostic room and optometry room next to each other. I have a counseling room, and then I have OPD1, OPD2, and this is my entire, on the right is my entire OT. So basically you can do everything on your own, or you can hire a contractor. The only difference is that when you hire multiple vendors, you have that much work on your head. If you have that much of time, if you hire one vendor and one contractor, he will charge you at least 10 to 15% more of what you will be spending. So if suppose you spend around, say, 15 lakhs on your interiors or 25 lakhs on your interiors, a good contractor will give you a budget of around 40 lakhs. You can save easily around, say, 5 to 7 lakhs if you do your work on your own. Now, OPD. So let's go step by step. So this is I have 2 waiting areas in my OPD. Now, I wanted to keep extremely good, cozy chairs because every patient that comes to your hospital sits for 2 hours minimum. And I want them to have good chairs so that they are less fussy and they're much more relaxed. So I decided of keeping 2 OPD areas or waiting areas because I had that much of space. So now these days, what I do is, because my clinic is near the airport, the upcoming airport, I have a lot of workers. So I keep this area for the workers and this area for my premium patients, so that, I can distribute it like that. Marketing ideas, like Madam mentioned, I have kept few of these acrylic flyers in the OPD in waiting area, so that the patient goes and reads this whenever they're sitting over there, or the relative can go and read. In my room also, if you see that there are 2 consulting rooms that I have, what I've done is, if this is my slit lamp, when the patient's relative is sitting opposite the patient is sitting, I've just made a word cloud of different words in ophthalmology, say LASIK. So the patient will look at that word and then ask me, what does this mean? Or say in the retina room, there is retina, there's degeneration. So these patients who are well educated, they come up with questions that what does this mean? And this is my OPD. Now I have thought of making it a little unconventional. As you can see, I avoided that table and chair, and I thought, let me, instead of keeping a chair, let me keep the patient's relative little more comfortable. And I put a sofa over there, and above my slit lamp there's a TV, so whatever I'm seeing on the slit lamp, it is projected on the TV. So that I thought of putting some of my trophies on the left hand side. My diagnostic room, again, if you are thinking of planning a diagnostic room, my best advice to everybody is, please keep all machines in one room. That is the best way to go, because the much lesser the patient travels, the much lesser your headache your staff has. So I have a ARK, I have a NCT, I recently purchased a OCT, and this is my A scan. So everything is in one room, and it gives, and again, if you see, I have requested the companies to give me good flyers, and then I put them on the acrylic plate on the wall, so that the patient actually reads this and then realizes that we are using good quality machines. Again, now let's talk about the revenue. Like Madam already said, OPD gives us consultation, and we further divide it into volume and revenue. Both are important. At the end of the day of every day, I see how many patients I have seen, whether I've seen 10 patients, 20 patients, and how much revenue has come each day. Out of which I further divided into new patients and follow-up OPD. Procedures also, if I've done a yak capsulotomy, if I've done a LASIK today, or if I've done any other procedure, I again divided into how many has been done and how much revenue has come per day. Now, let's talk about, so I will describe a little bit more in detail, but let's talk about the wards now. Now, again, when you talk about IPD or wards, you need to make sure that whenever there are doors, it is important for patient safety that these doors have to be at least 6 feet, so that if there is a stretcher or if there is health attendants, it is big enough for a stretcher to pass. Avoid any revolving doors, this is important, and no door knobs. So you need to make sure that there are no door knobs, and please put good signage. Make sure that you have a good signage of no exit or exit and fire. The patient should himself identify the areas to exit or enter a particular ward, because your staff is already busy in following up with other patients. Now, if there are bigger hospitals, and if you're thinking of building bigger hospitals, and if there are corridors, please have natural light. Please have a hand railing of at least 1.5 meter with width of 2 meters. Steps, if you're planning steps, please avoid steps in the OT and wards. It is not advisable to have steps. And if you're planning steps, please make sure they're low-rise steps wherever they are. Ramps, to another extent, should have, if there is a ramp, these big hospitals, the eye hospitals have ramps. Please make a textured flow so that the patient or the stretcher doesn't slip. And it should be at least, again, 1.5 meter height, so that and make sure that they are again gradual rise and not very steep. Again, so IPD gives you another level of revenue, which I will describe again. Now, depends on what all your hospital has. Again, you have to look at volume and revenue per day, per month, per year. So your cataract, refractive, retina, and other OPD procedures, you have to similarly follow up. How many MICS have you done? How many flags of femto have you done in cataract? In LASIK, again, divided into what have you done? Have you done a contura? How many smiles were done? How many ICLs were done, or how many blade-free LASIKs were done? Retina, people can describe it in a better way, but how many injections and surgery are done? Again, volume and revenue, both are important. Optical, trust me, optical is the best way of revenue for a newcomer. Lot of these outsourcing companies will come to you and ask you for putting up an optical in your OPD. Please avoid that. Put in some efforts. Again, it's a completely different topic. If given opportunity, I'll talk next time. I am running my own optical since day one, and trust me, optical gives you a 200 to 300% margin per glass. It is a headache. It takes a lot of efforts. You need people to come and train your staff, but it's worth it. Again, in my optical, if I have a Essilor India, if I have a Hoya, or if I have any other brand, I am putting up a banner over there so that patients come and see that we have these particular tie-ups. Pharmacy is something which I have outsourced. Pharmacy, according to me, gives you not more than 20% or 30% margins. So I have outsourced my pharmacy because I feel that if your pharmacy, if you have a multi-specialty hospital, your revenues on other things like IV cannulas and other tablets and all increases, but drops in general don't fetch us a lot of revenue. Again, for pharmacy and optical, you have to again calculate your revenue and volumes. And at the end, you have to calculate your gross contribution. So this is an important slide. I'm sorry, I'm running through because I have a lot of slides and a lot of things to talk. Your IPD gives you the most. This is what I have noticed. My IPD gives me the most amount of profit. That is around 60 to 75% approximately. This is the gross revenue, I would say, not profit. OPD gives you around 9 to 15%. Optical gives you 7 to 15%. And pharmacy gives you 4 to 10%. Please record month-on-month performance. Please try and compare the same month last year. So suppose if it's been a year, please try and go back, sit down and see last month, in the month of June, you had done this much business. Why has the business gone down or has it gone up? Again, you have to compare your previous year quarters. So not only monthly, you can also do a quarterly checkup, a quarterly valuation of how much has it gone up or down. And again, year on year, you have to keep on calculating. New practices can also do a month on month. So that means every month you try to see that how is your revenue increasing month on month, or when is it dropping down. Now, this is something which I did not talk about. So ATV, let's talk about ATV. So your average transaction value, this is important. A total value of each of your transactions divided by the total number of transactions your business had during the same time frame, say a year back. So this is something, again, you should keep in mind. And for example, if if your total transactions, now this is in dollars because this is what I found online, but you should see that your ATV again keeps growing yearly. That is important. Now, this is something which I like to make. Again, similarly, whatever are your revenue streams. So suppose if you don't have optical and pharmacy, you have only two revenue streams, that is your OPD and your IPD. So suppose if this is the month of July 21, if this is in lakhs. So if suppose 20 lakhs is your income in the month of July, that is 40%, and 30 lakhs comes from your IPD or surgeries, that is 60%. So total around 50 lakhs, that is 100%. Please calculate the gross profit. Now, everybody should understand what gross is, what net is, what EBITDA is. So gross profit means what is the total amount that comes in your hand. Expenses, when you remove it, it becomes your net profit. EBITDA is your expenditure after income tax and other amortization. That means whatever you're paying back to the other, when you're paying your taxes. So I like to divide my earnings into this particular chart. And this is how I come up with a net earning at the end of every month. Now, lastly, now this is something I would like to give some time on because OT planning is something which is important. So OT actually, ophthalmic OT actually requires specialized execution. It is a combination of civil, mechanical, electronic, and biomedical. So for doctors, we don't know anything of this, and that is the issue why people come to us and just quote us an insane amount of money for making an OT. But again, what should an ideal operation theater be? So these are all the points that an ideal operation theater should have. Now, it should have a good location in your hospital. It should have a good design. The environment of the operation theater should be good. Your equipments and instruments for sterilization should be there. A good CSSD department should be there. There should be good traffic. That means enough traffic and not too much traffic in your OT of your staff. A good dress code should be maintained. Your surveillance in the OT is important, especially because there is a lot of staff movement in the OT and then your stock keeps getting stolen sometimes. Biomedical waste disposal is again very important. Safety measures, handling of emergency in case if there is any emergency, And your, of course, staff should be well trained. Now, simple. According to AIOS, this is what AIOS has divided OT layout into, which is the outer zone, which is your reception. There should be a clean zone of changing area, and there should be a transfer zone. Further, there should be an autoclaving room or an aseptic room and a disposal zone. So this is how you have to classify your OT into. Now, talking about design, OT, see, there are no guidelines as such. You can even have 150 square feet OT, but ideal OT should be set 250 square feet for an ophthalmic, in an ophthalmic eye hospital. If you have a general anesthesia, it should be around at least 400 to 576 square feet, depending on what you practice. A lot of oculoplasty surgeons and retina specialists do require general anesthesia sometimes. Doors, which I'm going to talk a little detail about, should be adequately wide, that is around 1.2 to 1.5 meter, and they should have small window, which is a must from outside to communicate. This is good. This is extremely good and important. Although in Mumbai, we don't have this, but I practice in a small town. How does RO water plant? I'm sorry, this is a very blurred slide, but basically all your hardness and all your other salts in the water before RO treatment and after RO treatment basically have a huge difference. So suppose if your CaCO3, I don't know what that stands for, it is 724, and after that it becomes RO water treatment becomes 16. So there is a huge difference if you have a RO water plant. So if possible, try to get an RO water plant. Now, talking about OT planning. So again, you have to make sure a lot of points, starting from electrical load, how much load do you want to keep in your OT, which I'll talk about next slide. You need to make sure to have further requirements in case you want to add a vitrectomy machine if you're an anterior segment surgeon. If you want to add another autoclave in your OT or ETO in the future, you should have enough electrical load in your OT and enough electrical points. Plan an alarm system in the OT, detection and fire suppression systems. There's a big controversy if there should be a fire and a fire system in your OT, because sometimes you fog your OT. So I will talk about that also in the next few slides. You should have a diesel generator in case of a bigger setup, and circuit breakers are again important to prevent surge. So these are electrical point of view in the OT. You have to have a lot of things. General lighting is important. Surgical lighting, surgical recording. You should have electrical output. You need to have enough light intensity in your OT. Electrical wiring should be good, and communication should be there. So in a OT, especially, you should at least have a good backup, say a diesel generator or a UPS of at least 9 kilowatt, because every machine captures so much of watts. So this is one slide which is again important. Have a good backup of at least 20 to 30 minutes. I have experienced few times when I'm performing a phaco surgery and electricity is gone in some other center and there was no backup, and it is the last nightmare that you can have. Talking about coming back to the doors outside your OT, you can either have a double door or a single hermetically sealed door. Further, you please have this cupboard in your OT with everything labeled. It is extremely important to put this. Again, talking about the wires or the electrical points, please don't have them jumbled. Please get a pendant or a column for all your light supports so that you don't trip down. Invest in a good chair over the time, because if you're operating volumes, you need a good chair. I have just 1 or 2 more slides left. Now, NABH guidelines of 2015 say that your OT size should be 20 by 20 by 10. That is, the height below 10 should be the height below your ceiling. And it should have a standard occupancy of around 5 to 8 people at any given time. Equipment load, again, I have said 5 to 7 kilowatt is what they say, but it is better to have a little bit more, like I've described. 9 to 10 kilowatts should be your load. Good ambient temperature and humidity should be maintained in the OT. A scrub sink should be enough for 2 to 3 people, and avoid good water filter, or like I said, RO filter should be there. Water tap should be at least 10 centimeter above your wash basin. Those people who want to start a AHU, basically what AHU does is it regulates and circulates the air in your OT, and this is important. A dedicated AHU of 4500 CFM is desirable. Now, when I talk about CFM basically we have to determine the volume of any room in cubic feet and multiply it by the ACH. Now, what is ACH? ACH basically is your air change per hour, and then divide everything by 60 minutes per hour. So basically it's a calculation.
Please, it's 9:15.
Yeah, I will just wrap up. I have just one more slide left. So again, HEPA filter and the ceiling, depending on how you want to go. And OT walls can be either, the external walls have to be solid bricks, but internal walls can be metallic panels. These days there are PVC panels and a lot of these puff panels which are available. Lastly, floor can be epoxy flooring or vinyl flooring. Again, please make sure that there is coving. So this is my last slide. Copper grounding strip, at least make sure that it is there, and it is at least around 100 meters above the wall to make sure to prevent proper grounding is there. Thank you. I'm sorry I had to take some time, but the topic was such vast.
Yeah, I agree, and I probably it is my fault, but I believe we can have a separate session only on OT design, and because you're an ophthalmologist, I believe you made the whole conversation much more simpler. Otherwise, when architects or some professional talks about it, it is like a Greek or Latin, at least for me.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the efforts, and I really like the way you simplified the inflow and outflow chart for the OPEX, because this is something which I haven't been doing in my practice. And I just realized that it is so important to understand that, especially now, when we all are talking about EBITDA, when valuations are going on in the ophthalmology market. Yeah. Now over to Dr. Sunena Hatila. She is a core team member of socio-cultural team. She is going to present one of the most interesting books which I have come across in recent months. And the book is titled The Richest Man in Babylon. And the book is a classic, on personal finance. And when I started reading it, I absolutely was mesmerized the way they have simply put certain personal finance things. And a lot of things my parents have taught me, but it has so much relevance after a century of its publication. So the first time it was published in 1926. So it is still remains a classic. Dr. Sunena, over to you. And she has done a wonderful job to go through the whole book and summarize it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank you, YOSI, for giving me this opportunity. I've been working as a senior resident in the government premises of Bikaner, Rajasthan, and I literally have nil knowledge regarding this private practice. Here is my So we'll discuss about the brief summary about the famous novel, The Richest Man in Babylon. Actually, Babylon was an ancient city located in the southern Mesopotamia, which is now modern Iraq. These are the best lines which I was able to extract from this novel. Babylon was the wealthiest city in the world at the time of its height because its people appreciated the.
Sorry to disturb you in between. Can you put it on the slideshow mode? Can you put on the slideshow mode?
So this screen is not visible?
Screen is visible. Only thing is you can just click on the slideshow mode so that the slides are visible. Slideshow. Presentation mode, display mode. Can you see? So just go below. There are 3 icons on your right-hand side. Just click the 3rd icon over there, which is showing you a slideshow mode. You can even go up. You can click on the slideshow over there. You can start the slideshow. Just go on to the second slide, select the second slide.
So second slide.
Yeah, can you reshare your slide?
So is it visible now, sir?
Yeah. No, but you have to go to the slideshow mode. If you're not able to go to the slideshow mode, give me a minute. I will share the presentation from my side.
Yes, sir.
Manoj sir, meanwhile, would you like to give your valuable comments and suggestions?
Okay, Rohit, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You're audible now.
Okay, yeah. Thanks to YOSI for having me as a panelist here, though I am above age to be in your group. Yeah, the talks which I had were very exhaustive. Matlab, I think they were too much in detail. So I don't know matlab, how much of take-home message the audience would have got, because all the three talks were very, very extensive in detail. Maybe not a criticism, but maybe you could have had your topics, short, more detailed, and then you could have a selective audience for those. Now, some of those topics went, were too detailed. I have my own clinic, and it's a very small one. Rohit knows my place very well, but they were very. I think that our speakers have taken a huge effort to present these talks. From the finance point, I think I would like to add is that none of them mentioned about, in especially in city like Bombay and even small towns where I visit, a lot of equipment is available on rent. Okay, so that's a very good option for youngsters. Like, for example, even me, I get OCT on rent, I get YAG laser on rent. If you want retina laser, you get on rent. You get perimetry on rent. Even you get IL master on rent. So maybe you need not buy those equipment to start with. You can rent them, and maybe in the long run, you may never need to buy them, because Rohit knows I am also a semi sort of finance man, and maybe if you take the finance into it, then it just doesn't make sense to buy these kind of equipment. You could probably continue with the renting them. That's a huge saving in the initial part. Maybe next we can take, if she's ready, then we can continue with the discussion later on.
Sure, sir, sure. Dr. Sunena, I'll just go to the next slide.
Yes, sir. So we were discussing about the city Babylon, which is an ancient city located in the southern Mesopotamia in the ancient time. Babylon was the wealthiest city in the world at the time of its height because its people appreciated the value of money.
Rohit, what has happened?
Is my screen visible?
Hey, your screen is visible. Continue.
So there were 7 simple rules of money making that was given in the novel. Firstly, start with the purse fattening, that is save money. The control the expenditures. Don't spend money more than what you need. Then invest the money wisely. Guard the treasure from loss, that is avoid investment that sounds too good to be true. Make of the dwelling a profitable investment. Own your own. Ensure a future income, that is protect yourself with life insurance. Improve the ability to earn, strive to become wiser and more knowledgeable. To bring your dreams and desire to fulfillment, you must be successful with money. Actually, the novel says that the laws of money are like the laws of gravity, assured and unchanging. Money is plentiful for those who understand the simple laws of making money. And we must constantly have an income that keeps our purse full. It costs nothing to ask wise advice from a good friend. Also, youth often assumes incorrectly that the old and wise only have wisdom about the past. They can advise about future also. First of all, we should pay yourself, that is pay ourselves first. And you will begin building wealth only when you start to realize that a part of all the money that you earn is yours to keep. You should save at least 1/10 of what you earn, more if you can afford to do so. Always take advice from experts in a particular subject. Build for yourself a mountain of gold first, then you can enjoy as many banquets as you wish without worry. Don't spend your money as soon as you earn it. The book says that you should surround yourself with people who are familiar with the money, who work with it each day, and who make lots of it. But enjoy life while you are here. Do not overspend to save. Also, do not put your money in investment which do not pay a reward or risky places that seems too good to be true. Now, what each person calls their necessary expenses will always grow to match your income unless you resist that urge. Do not confuse your necessary expenses with your desires. Also, we should know the art of crushing the spirit of procrastination. Before that, you cannot arrive at the fullest measure of your success. Book also explains laws of gold. There are 5 laws. Gold comes easily and in increasing quantity to the person who saves at least 1/10 of their earnings. It labors diligently and multiplies for the person who find it profitable employment. It clings to the protection of the person who invests their gold with wise people. It slips away from the person who invests it into purposes through which he is unfamiliar. It flees from the person who tries to force it into impossible earnings. If you desire to help your friend, do not do so in a way that brings their burden onto you. There are many other ways to help people. Also, the wise lender always has a guarantee of repayment. Above all, you should desire safety of your money. Better a little caution than a great regret. And no man respect himself if he does not repay his debt. Debt are gone fast with discipline and consistency. The soul of a free man looks at the world as a series of problems to be solved. Meanwhile, the soul of a slave whines, "What can I do?" The beautiful message given by this novel was Where the determination is, a way can be found. If you are in debt, live on 70% of what you make. Save 10% for yourself. Use the remaining 20% to repay your debts. Work attract friends who admire your industriousness. It attracts money and opportunity. And hard work is the best friend I've ever had. This was a beautiful message by the novel. Thank you so much.
Hi, friends. Am I audible?
Yeah, you
Yes,
are.
sir.
Yeah. So we'll go on for the discussion. The discussion is on return on investment. So one of the particular things which was discussed was about the equipment buying and investing in a OT setup, whether it regards to our anterior segment setup or it was a vitro-retina setup. So, Dr. Manoj sir, what's your take on the return on investment? What is a formula we need to follow so that we can plan investment and instruments? Something like an OCT or an IOL master or a topography machine. How would you go about it?
Okay, Rohit, I'm sorry, I don't know, somehow I'm not able to put my camera on. Anyway, so I hope I'm audible to you all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll just speak. Camera is not on somehow. Now the thing is that, see, for a beginner, there's going to be shortage of funds. So as I said before in the interval, that one option is that one can look at renting the equipment, which is a very good method. In fact, I know a lot of surgeons from Bombay, even senior people. In fact, I know quite a few of the retina surgeons in Bombay who don't have an OCT. They get on rent. So that is one option one can look at, that you need not buy this costly equipment, you can get them on rent. Second thing is, one of the speakers did mention about the refurbished equipment. I'll tell you my example. I have my own small OT. My whole setup is only 430 square feet, not 1500 as Nijir Islani's has. And I bought 20 years back, I bought a second-hand microscope and I'm still using it. I only got an Omniglow fitted recently. So one need not buy the fresh equipment. Second thing is, in general, if you're looking at the return on money from the equipment, in general, what you should target is that equipment per se should be able to make itself free in about 5 years or so, which means that roughly, suppose you bought an equipment, say for 1 lakh rupees, then within 5 years around approximately, that equipment should have given you a revenue of at least 1 lakh to 120 lakhs, because normally most of the equipment within 5 to 7 years, some of them will start giving you trouble or they would need to be upgraded. So that initially you would be able to buy, you should buy it from your funds or whatever it is, but subsequent the equipment, the upgradation, or if it goes out of fashion or you need to buy another one, hopefully should be coming from the funds generated by the machine itself. You should not be putting it fresh funds from your side to upgrade or replenish that. That is what I think. Some equipment take longer, 5, 7 years, 10 years, but hopefully that machine should be able to generate or should be able to fund itself. That is what I normally look at. Okay. And so something like that is what you would look, especially your phaco machines, OCTs, even IOL masters, etc. These go out of fashion very, very quickly. So you would need to be wary of that. Autoref generally have a long life. They will last you for years. Don't worry about that. But some of the equipment you would need to upgrade, or they would be irreparable, or their parts will not be available in a few years. So you need to be careful of that.
That's true. One of the things which I've learned in practice is that apart from the cost of buying the equipment, we need to factor in the CMC cost as well. So, for example, I pay a decent amount of money every year to Zeiss for my OCT CMC. So, Prakhar, what's your take on that? If Prakhar is around.
Yeah, so we means, initially I am that
Prakhar, we are not able to hear you.
where feel. Hello, hello, are you able to hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah. Now it is better.
Okay. So yeah, what I was saying that CMC is a very important thing because for a lot of machines which are running continuously, like your FICO machines or your, like you said, your OCT or anything, CMC becomes an important part. And when you have to pay your hard-earned money for those CMCs, it feels very bad. Only for my FICO machine Legion, which was under CMC for 2.5 years, and it completed now only. So now I have to pay a 5 lakh per year for its CMC. So that becomes very difficult. So that's why I told that when you buy a machine initially, you should bargain on CMCs. And a lot of times you can get a one or that will, cover at least 4 to 5 lakh rupees of your money. And that's very important when you buy a machine.
Rohit, can I
Apart from
say?
having these regulars, yeah.
No, go ahead. Prakar, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, apart from having these regular CMCs, a lot of people are now doing insurance also, which are not from the company, but these are from the outsourced companies, which they are taking insurance on a whole. Like, they insure all their machines all together and they pay a very petty amount for that and they get insured. So that is also one option, though I have not tried that yet.
Yeah, Pooja, a question for you, which was asked in the chat, whether we need to start the practice in the heart of the city where competition is high and paying capacity is good, or go to the periphery of the city where paying capacity and competition is less. I'm purposely asking you because you are at the heart of Mumbai city, right in the central Mumbai, Dadar.
So,
So, what's your take on this?
it's a very individual choice. So whether you want, I mean, how much time, when you discuss practice, basically we discuss about practice and seeing patients a lot, but nobody discusses about life and practice. So you want to balance both the things. Everybody has their own choice. I mean, for example, I'm taking a course on guitar, I'm taking a course on animation, so I need those 3 hours free in the day. So I love low volume, high paying practices for myself, but the choice can be absolutely different because most of your bigger practices in terms of volume come from the periphery where the population is growing, and eventually, at least in a city like Mumbai, do have a decent amount of paying capacity, especially with the insurance coming in. So, your insurance payouts are fairly standard throughout the nation, in tier 1 cities or tier 2 cities. So as the population goes more and more for insurance um, amount, other than the consultation fee, nothing differs across in the heart of the city or the periphery of the city. So if you want to start, I would suggest periphery is a good option because the land, the rentals, both are fairly doable, and the volume of surgery is something that all of us should be looking at eventually.
Rohit, can I make a comment on the previous question? The AMC, CMC? Hello, Rohit.
I think Rohit is not online, or I think he has some problem with his system. Yes, Dr. Manoj, you were saying something.
Yeah, I think I was saying that another option is, which may sound a little drastic, is that you can totally forego taking AMC or CMC from these companies. Okay. Now, if you look from the finance point of view, I will tell you that, frankly speaking, AMC, CMC you can forego, and in the long run, you will save money. Okay, because most of the machines are sturdy, and it's possible that once in a while you will have a big expense. But if you take the overall expense from all your machines, which you don't take same AMC or CMC, and you calculate the interest of what you've saved, makes much less headache and simple to not take AMC, CMC at all. And then you can have a lot of, and in India, we have a lot of these jugaad people, a lot of people available in every city, small town, who will come and do your refurbish, or they will be able to manage the things on their own. And if it doesn't work out, you can always call the company. They'll be a little expensive, but you would have saved more than that by not taking a contract with them. So that is very drastic, but a practical solution, not to take any AMC, CMC. Once the original equipment AMC, CMC is over, whatever they want to do it for the first 1 to 3 years, that's it. After that, don't take.
If anybody has any more questions, feel free to ask any of your questions. So we can take another 1 or 2 questions. We are running short of time. Does anybody have any specific question? All right. I think it was a wonderful session. There is always a lot to discuss, especially again, taxation, rentals. All these topics have been can be covered in a separate session subsequently. With that, on behalf of YOSI, I would like to thank everybody for joining this session. Thank you so much. I think we can conclude this session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, YOSI.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.